In the heart of the bustling port town of Eridor, where the air was a rich tapestry of salt, tar, and exotic spices, lived a young man named Kaelen. By trade, he was a cartographer, a mapmaker renowned for the precision and detail of his work. Yet, his own life felt like an uncharted and terrifying territory. Kaelen's heart was a small, tightly wound scroll, and every minor setback, a spilled pot of ink, a merchant's haggle, a looming bill, was a significant blot that bled across the parchment of his peace. He saw his life not as an adventure to be mapped, but as a series of obstacles to be meticulously, anxiously recorded. His small workshop, which should have been a place of wonder, felt like a cage. He was so focused on mapping the rocks and shoals of potential disaster that he never looked up to chart the constellations of opportunity. One afternoon, a heavy, gray mood settled over Kaelen, as oppressive as the fog that sometimes crept in from the sea. He sought refuge in the Salty Quill, a tavern where sailors spun yarns as they mended their nets. He sat in a corner, nursing a cup of tea, his mind a storm of worry about a delayed shipment of vellum. He was so consumed by this singular, small problem that he barely noticed the vibrant life of the tavern around him. But then, through the fog of his thoughts, a conversation from a nearby table pierced through. A group of weathered mariners were speaking in hushed, reverent tones. "Old Alara," one sailor said, his voice a low rumble. "She's the one. Lives in the old lighthouse on the eastern cliffs. They say she's blind, but sees more than any of us." Another sailor nodded, adding, "It's not just seeing, it's understanding. My nephew was lost, adrift in his own misery after losing his ship. He spent but an hour with the Tide Watcher, and now he's building a new vessel, his eyes full of fire and hope." A spark, tiny but persistent, ignited within Kaelen. He wasn't adrift from a shipwreck, but from the cumulative weight of 1,000 small anxieties. He thought, if she can help a man who has lost everything, perhaps she can help a man who fears losing anything. That very evening, determined, Kaelen set out for the eastern cliffs. The journey itself was a metaphor for his inner turmoil. The path was steep and slick, with sea spray. The wind howled, trying to push him back, whispering doubts in his ear. Yet, the image of the hopeful sailor's nephew urged him forward. As he finally reached the tall, solitary lighthouse, he felt a profound sense of peace emanate from the stones. He found Alara sitting by a small, warm fire, her sightless eyes turned towards the rhythmic crash of the waves below. She seemed to be expecting him. "I am Kaelen," he began, his voice barely a whisper. "I map the world, yet I am lost in my own life. My heart is a tiny vessel, and I fear even the smallest wave of misfortune will capsize it. I am tired of living in bitterness and fear. How can I find peace?" Hilara listened, her face serene. Without a word, she rose and returned with 2 items: a small, beautifully carved wooden cup filled with fresh water, and a simple clay bowl brimming with coarse sea salt. "Take a pinch of this salt," she instructed, her voice as calm and steady as the lighthouse beam. "Place it in the cup and drink." Kaelen did as she asked. The moment the water touched his lips, he recoiled, his face contorting. "It is awful, unbearably bitter. I can taste nothing but the salt." Hilara nodded. "Now," she said, "take this entire bowl of salt and follow me." She led him up the winding stairs to the very top of the lighthouse, where the great lamp cast its hopeful beam across the dark waters. The wind was strong, and the vast, churning ocean stretched out to the horizon. "Cast the salt into the sea," she commanded. Kaelen poured the entire bowl of salt over the railing. It vanished instantly, swallowed by the immense, dark waves. "Now," Alara said, gesturing to a rope and bucket, "draw some water from the ocean and taste it." Hesitantly, Kaelen lowered the bucket and hauled up the cold, heavy seawater. He took a sip, expecting the same bitterness, but found only the clean, invigorating taste of the ocean. He looked at Alara in astonishment. "It tastes alive. I cannot taste the salt I threw in at all. It's gone." Alara's face broke into a beautiful, wise smile. "My child," she said, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "The sorrows and problems of life are like this salt. The amount of salt, whether a pinch or a bowlful, doesn't change. Its effect, its bitterness, depends entirely on the vessel you put it into," she continued. "When your heart is a small cup, even the tiniest pinch of salt, the smallest problem, will make your entire life taste bitter. But it is not your destiny to be a cup. Your heart was meant to be an ocean." Kaelen stared at the vast sea, the truth of her words washing over him like a cleansing tide. "But an ocean, heart does more than just dilute sorrow until it is undetectable," Alara said, her voice filled with a joyful warmth. "It does not just endure, it thrives. An ocean reflects the vast, blue sky of hope. It teems with the vibrant life of joy, curiosity, and connection. It welcomes the rivers of friendship and love that flow into it. Your purpose is not merely to withstand the salt, but to discover the magnificent life your ocean can hold and nurture." She turned her face toward him, her smile feeling like the Sunday. "Go home, Kaelen, the Mapmaker. But stop redrawing the old maps of your worries. Unfurl a new parchment. Begin to chart the vast coastlines of your own potential. Map the currents of kindness you can send out into the world. Discover the uncharted islands of joy that await you. Your heart is not a fragile cup. It is a boundless, living ocean. Live like it." Kaelen walked back down the cliff path, not with the hesitant steps of a worried man, but with the confident stride of an explorer. The storm in his soul had broken, and the dawn was arriving. He returned to Eriador a changed man. The next morning, instead of fretting over his vellum shipment, he spent an hour helping his neighbor, a fisherman, mend a complex tier in his sail, feeling a simple, profound joy in the act of giving. He took his younger sister, whose cough he had always worried about, for a walk along the sun-drenched pier, not to monitor her breathing, but to share stories and laugh until their sides ached. Back in his workshop, he unrolled the largest, most pristine sheet of parchment he owned. He dipped his finest quill into a pot of brilliant blue ink, but he didn't draw a map of any known land. He began to design a new kind of chart, one that showed the shipping lanes not as lines of commerce, but as threads of connection between cultures. He called it an atlas of shared horizons. The salt of life's challenges would still come, Kaelen knew, but he no longer feared it, for he was no longer a man with a small cup of a heart, terrified of a single pinch of salt. He was Kaelen, the cartographer of joy, his heart a vast and wondrous ocean, reflecting the endless, brilliant sky.